All right, we have House File 2718, Representative Cha on the grain indemnity account. I will move that House File 2718 be laid over for possible inclusion. Representative Cha, to your bell.
Thank you, Chair Vang and members of this committee. I'm proud to present Senate File 2718 to establish a grain indemnity fund in Minnesota. After years of elevator collapse and some devastating stories from farm families, some of whom you'll hear from today in testimony, which will help finally provide meaningful protection to producers who sell grain in Minnesota. When farmers sell grain in an elevator, they don't often collect payment right away. And in fact, they're extending credit to the elevator. 7 times since 2015, the elevators go under and are not able to pay farmers. In any business, that's devastating. But in farming, you work all year to market your crop. And once you do, you have to pay your inputs and invest in the upcoming year. Not getting paid for delivered grains puts farmer in an incredible, difficult position. At present, there's a system in law intended to protect producers. The state mandates that elevators purchases bonds. Unfortunately, these bonds only pay out literally cents on the dollars, an average of 11 cents on the dollar across recent failures. Not only that, but they pay that out in years later once all claims are in and bankruptcy is settled. According to MDA, farmers have gone bankrupt waiting for payouts of these bonds. The indemnity fund proposed under my bill would protect producers allowing for reimbursement immediately upon confirming that a claim is eligible. And while payments would be scaled based on how long farmers leave grain at the elevator, it would offer far more than the cents on the dollars afforded under our current system. Now you may ask, why should we have a program that's specific to funding elevators? The big reason is that we need this. Much like a bank, grain elevators hold community wealth. When they go under, they aren't just consequences for business, but all those farms and entrusted themselves in the grain, and Minnesota families and communities are hurt. Hold the bag. You might also ask, why should we act on an indemnity fund when we could put more protection in place and increase regulation? Well, first, because the legislature has tried that. In 2019, the legislature tightened regulations on grain buyers, requiring more frequent audits and other requirements. Pipeline Food had just submitted their audit before they went bankrupt, leaving farmers in lurch of unpaid bills. Again, leaving families stranded. There may be additional regulatory tools to prevent failures, and this committee should consider them. But they are absolutely no substitute for the protection provided by an indemnity fund. Finally, just a couple important details on my proposal before I turn it over to my testifiers. First, I'm proposing seeding this fund with $5 million, ensuring the fund is solvent and protecting producers from day one. Second, when fees would be assessed under this bill, they'd be only assessed on the first sale. That is from a producer to an elevator. Third, there's an opt-out provision. Producers can contact the department and get their money back in exchange for protection from the fund. They can also opt back in to the indemnity fund. Fourth, there are new penalties. Grain buyers who don't comply with this law would face up to $7,500 per day per infraction. And finally, I want to address the long-term funding mechanism for this fund. Premiums assessed on sold grain. Premiums would only be assessed in years when the fund dips below $9 million and until the fund caps at $15 million. They would be capped at an absolute maximum of $20 on every 10,000 of market grain, but they would likely be much lower. To build the fund up to $15 million from $5 million, the department estimates they'll need to assess $7 on every $10,000 of market grain in 1 year's time. That's pretty good and pretty cheap insurance for our farm producers. This is a good bill with bipartisan support, and we're not figuring this out for the first time on our own in this committee. In fact, we're following 14 other states. And it's time that we catch up and protect Minnesota families and producers. With that, I'll turn it over to my testifiers.
All right, I do see we have amendments, and so we'll go quickly through amendments, and then we can go to testimony. We have the A2 amendment from Representative Anderson to the A2. Would you like to move your amendment, Representative Anderson?
I'd like to move the amendment, Madam Chair. The A2 simply brings this bill into the same funding mechanism as we've heard over in the Senate. It would make the state contribution $15 million with this amendment, Madam Chair.
All right, Representative Cha.
I would like to keep it at 5 million, and I encourage a no on this amendment. Thank you.
Further discussion?
I'd ask for roll call, Madam Chair.
A roll call being requested. Seeing no further discussion, Matthew Seltzer.
Chair Vang.
No.
Vang, no. Vice Chair Purcell.
No.
Purcell, no. Lead Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Representative Cha.
No.
Cha, no. Representative Frederick. No. Frederick, no. Representative Hanson. No. Hanson, no. Representative Ream.
Ream, no.
Ream, no. Representative Sensor-Murrah.
No.
Sensor-Murrah, no. Representative Tabke. Tabke excused. Representative Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle, aye. Representative Harder.
Aye.
Harder, aye. Representative Jacob.
Jacob, aye.
Jacob, aye. Representative Nelson.
Nelson, aye.
Nelson, aye. Representative Tabke.
No.
Tabke, no.
There being 8 noes and 5 ayes, the motion to adopt the A2 amendment is not adopted. The next amendment we have is the A3. That is, I believe, Representative Harder. Would you like to move your amendment into your
Yes.
A3?
Yes, yes, Chair Vang, I will move the amendment and ask for a roll call, please.
A roll call being requested to the A3.
Thank you, Chair Vang. Representative Cha. So in your bill, you do have an opt-out in there for producers. The opt-out that I wish to include in the bill is that a producer could opt out on the front end. So if a producer does not want to partake in the program, they can opt out at the front end, fill out the form, and not be a part of the program, where right now I believe it is that they'd be a part of the program, and then they would have to opt out, fill out forms, and get their fees back. So that is my amendment, is to have the option to opt out at the front end.
Representative Cha? To the
Thank you,
A3.
Representative Harder, for your amendment, and thank you for the discussion that we had. I would like to work with you on this, but at this time, I'm going to advise a no vote on this amendment, and let me see here. Let's see. Like, this changes like how the opt-out currently works, and this requires MDA to maintain a list of producers who opt out. And so grain buyers can consult with the list and not charge them premium. The problem here is that it doesn't require those producers that opt out to repay the fund to participate, leading into the potential of gaming. But I understand you as a grain producer, and I value your experience, and at this time, I would encourage no, but I would like us to have an offline conversation to continue this.
Representative Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like this idea better, the opt-out in the front end than the back end. And I think with today's modern technology and computers, it wouldn't be that difficult to have a list where the opt-out would be on the front end and not the back end. But I agree that this maybe doesn't have the provisions worked out yet for allowing a farmer back in, or how long he would be ineligible after that would happen. So I would appreciate working with you along with Representative Harder on this amendment and look at it further as this bill is being held over. So thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call being requested. Matthew Seltzer?
Chair Vang.
No.
Vang, no. Vice Chair Purcell.
No.
Purcell, no. Lead Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Representative Cha.
No?
Cha, no. Representative Frederick. Frederick, no. Representative Hanson? No. Hanson, no. Representative Ream?
Ream, no.
Ream, no. Representative Censor-Murra?
No.
Censor-Murra, no. Representative Tabke?
No.
Tabke, no. Representative Burkle?
Burkle, aye.
Burkle, aye. Representative Harder?
Aye.
Harder, aye. Representative Jacob?
Jacob, aye.
Jacob, aye. Representative Nelson?
Aye.
Nelson, aye.
There being 8 noes and 5 ayes, the nays have it. The motion does not prevail. The A3 amendment is not adopted. We have the A4 from Representative Jacob. Would you like to move your amendment?
Well, thank you, Chair Bang. Yeah, I'd like to move the A4 amendment. And the amendment simply on page 6, line 22, it changes the word may to must in order to provide certainty that the premium blinks off when the account is fully funded. Seems to make good sense.
Representative Cha.
Thank you, Representative Jacob. I think it's a good amendment. I encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
All right, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the A4 amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion prevails, the A4 amendment is adopted. We have the A5, Representative Burkle. Please move your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A5 amendment, Representative Chow, you mentioned gaming the system, and we had this conversation earlier today. Just changes the 90 days on 7.32, line 7.32, from 90 to 120 days. And I'm, glad to hear this is gonna be laid over. We can have more discussion as things progress on some of the other issues, but this seems like a smart way to make sure that nobody's gaming the system and jumping in.
Representative Cha.
Thank you, Representative Burkle, for that conversation and for this amendment. I encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
All right, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the A5 amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion prevails, the A5 amendment is adopted. The A6, Representative Anderson, would you be offering that one?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and let's keep the streak going here. When I first carried this bill a couple of years ago, my main concern was the voluntary extension of credit. If a farmer hauled his harvest in the fall and didn't get his check until January for tax purposes. And on page 3, line 30 of the bill, it kind of addresses what I was trying to work on a couple of years ago. But I think the amount for full coverage is a little bit light. With the grain markets we've had this past year, soybeans over $15 a bushel and corn $7 a bushel. You could rack up that total with about 10,000 bushels of soybeans and 9,000 bushels of corn. So my amendment would just simply raise those limits of full coverage on these short durations from 200,000 to 300,000, and I would hope you'd see that, Representative Cha, as a friendly amendment.
Representative Cha.
Representative Anderson, I do see it. And I think third time's a charm, so I would accept it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the A6 amendment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion prevails. The A6 amendment is adopted. We'll move on to testimony. The first one is Commissioner Tom Peterson. And members, because we are a bit short on time here, please keep your testifiers, please keep your testimony to under 2 minutes, so we can try to get through all the testifiers for this really important bill. Commissioner Peterson, please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Madam Chair and members, Tom Peterson, Commissioner, Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And you've already heard pretty extensively from the department on this issue, and I'm not going to belabor those points. I think it's really important to hear from the farmers that are here that will tell the stories and about what happened with them. And I really appreciate the work that the committee is doing on this in both bodies and the stakeholders, because I think it's an important issue that we made, and and we're making progress on this bill. And I want to commit as commissioner to continue to work on these issues as we put forward. We also have Mr. Milanowski is here today to answer any questions, and don't know in our 2 minutes if he wants to add anything, so.
Please identify yourself before the record and proceed.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Thank you, Chair Vang. Representative, my name is Nick Milanowski. I'm the program manager of the Fruit, Vegetable, and Grain Program. I'm tasked with managing regulation of all the grain buyers in the state, as well as executing on bond claims and investigations. We've worked hard and on this language, worked with other states and looked at best practices and best cases in other states and put that together here. And I think you'll hear from some of the farmers today about real life applications of where this bill can really help them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Nicholas. The next testifier we have is Matt Ashton for New Vision Cooperative. Over Zoom, if you can identify yourself before the committee, proceed. Matt Ashton, if you're speaking, don't hear you. Okay, we'll move to the next testifier, Gary Wertish, President from the Minnesota Farmers Union. Thank you for being here today. It's good to see you. Please identify yourself before the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Vang, and the committee, and Gary Wertish, President of the Minnesota Farmers Union. I really appreciate you holding this committee here, and Representative Cha for bringing this bill forward. And I also want to thank you too, being able to testify quick, and I would do it very short because Chairman Vang did a very nice, or Representative Chai did a nice job. I'm also a township supervisor. I need to leave right after this to get back to be at my township annual meeting. You know, we've been talking about this for a long time, and, you know, there's various things. And I really want to thank the chairman and the Department of Ag. Department of Ag has put a lot of time into this, a lot of years into trying to come up with the right solution and, you know, something that'll work for Minnesota farmers and the communities. You know, the ultimate goal is to get this passed. Once that fund is built up, we all would never hope that fund never has to be used, because that's ultimately what we want. The farmers, that way the farmers are protected and, you know, there'd be no cost off of them forever. But this really is, you know, it's not a bailout to the farmer. It's not a bailout to the elevator. Representative Cha did mention it. This is for the communities. You know, because anytime an elevator goes bankrupt and can't pay and the farmer doesn't get his check, and sometimes gets, on the average, it's been getting at 10 cents, 10, 11 cents on a dollar what he's owed. That's all money that doesn't go into their local community. That's all money that doesn't go supporting their local grocery store, the machinery dealers, into their school district. That's the bottom line here. And I think that's, you know, really want to thank everybody that's worked on this. And we have the stark example, the Global Foods one recently. The Iowa producers are going to get 90% of their payment up to $300,000. That's how their indemnity fund is set up. Our producers are going to wait. We don't know how long. They might wait years. So that's really a stark example how this fund can work. And with that, I will thank you for letting me give my testimony, and now we'll leave unless I have a question. I'll leave to go do my constitutional duty as a township officer.
All right, thank you, President Gary. Next testifier is Martin Phillips from Blue Sky Farms. Thank you for being here. If you can please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Martin Phillips, and I'm here to testify for the Grain Indemnity Fund. We're a third-generation small Minnesota farm south of Mankato. We're certified in 42 different crops, raising organic vegetables and other things. We host a You Pick Pumpkin event each year without charging an entrance fee, relying on our pumpkin, vegetable, ornamental, and concession stand sales to bring low-cost entertainment to families across southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. In 2021, we had an organic corn contract with Pipeline Foods of Hope, Minnesota, to sell them our 2020 organic corn harvest that was scheduled for delivery to their facility in July of 2021. We started hauling on 6/14 of 2021 with the last delivery made on 6/29 of 2021. They wanted the corn as soon as possible, and we kindly hauled all 16 semi-loads as quick as we could, totaling 15,093 bushels. On July 8th of '21, we were informed that Pipeline Foods had filed a company-wide bankruptcy, Chapter 11 in Delaware, on all of its creditors. We are a small farm of 420 acres with little land owned of the 420 acres. The resulting loss amounts to $112,175. We had an operating loan with Compure Financial that we could not pay off except by using monies that we had set aside for paying land rents that of course went unpaid. Still today, we have not recouped a single penny and the struggle still goes on. One of the biggest eye-openers is that Pipeline Foods is only required to post a $500,000 bond. That bond was meant to help reimburse unsecured creditors in the event of the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy court has sent us a letter suggesting that we might receive 0.9 to 1.1% of our losses, and still nothing has been resolved in regards to the bond. The bankruptcy court has now demanded that the Minnesota Department of Ag send them all the information in regards to this bond and what each farmer might be owed. Their letter of intent is to make sure that no farmer or unsecured creditor will receive too much money in comparison to the farmers in other states, that there might be a more fair settlement overall. So what this has done to us is destroyed a credit rating in the mid-700s and reduced it to the mid-500s. This has wiped out many past profitable years of income and put this small farm's life in jeopardy. Life is always hard on a small farm, and losing access to credit resources not only limits your growth potential, but also your quality of life for each member of the farm and the children who plan on working on the farm in the future. In 2022, we had 2 organic soybean contracts with Global Processing, one for $32.50 a bushel and the other for $36 a bushel. And the organic soybeans were to be delivered in January of '23. In October of '22, Global Processing filed a company-wide bankruptcy, Chapter 11 in Iowa. I have been told they only had a $50,000 bond in Minnesota. The good news is that we have not delivered the organic soybeans. The bad news is that when the bankruptcy court in Iowa releases the contracts, which it still has not, from Global Processing, we can sell wherever we can, and the current market is $22 a bushel. The difference in what we had it sold for and what we will get now will be a negative 115,857 bushels. So we're talking about over a 2-year period, $227,000 missing from our budget. Now, it's been,
Mr. Phillips, if you could please wrap up your thought.
all right. In closing, you know, the small farmers, along with the big farmers, were the very backbone of our local society and the food producers of our great nation. My wife and I thank you for all your hard work concerning this issue to protect the farms in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, for sharing your story. The next testifier is, Matt Ashton. If you can identify yourself before the committee and proceed, please keep your testimony under 2 minutes.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize for earlier, I was muted. I just want to thank the committee and the chair.
Can you speak
My
louder
name is
into the
Matt
mic, please,
Ashton.
Matt?
My name is Matt Ashton. I'm the CEO at New Vision Co-op in Brewster, Minnesota, where we have over 2,200 active members. We currently handle about 65 million bushels of corn and beans from our producers. And certainly we support and understand the hardships of bankruptcies and things like that with the grain dealers that have been spoken here today. My challenge to the committee to consider is the regulations and the oversight that comes with the people who have the grain dealer's license. The vast majority of the people and the individuals in the co-ops and the grain dealers that have grain dealers' licenses are ethical and above board. My challenge to this committee when you're looking at this is, what are you doing to regulate finances, audits, things of that nature, to make sure that everybody understands who the grain dealer's license goes to, who's buying the grain dealer's license, and who's behind the grain dealer's license. So In the interest of time, I will be done, but I appreciate your time and your support and letting me speak today.
All right, thank you, Matt. Our next testifier is Chad Stannard from Hope, Minnesota. If you can please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. For the record, my name is Chad Stannard. I'm here to testify regarding the Grain Indemnity Fund. I am a grain buyer that has went through 2 grain elevators filing bankruptcy within the last 5 years. Yes, both of those elevators were at Hope, Minnesota, and I was the grain merchandiser with my name on most of those contracts. Bonding has been inadequate for every grain buyer in Minnesota. It only protects 7 to 11%. Pipeline Foods, I was a grain merchandiser there for 2 years. 5.5 million in claims. That means $5.5 million in farmers' lost dollars. Just 9% of bond coverage pay out to farmers. That was only $500,000 of the 5.5 million. Global Processing, that bankruptcy is currently in process. 1 million of farmer claims. That's just 5% of bond coverage. Approximately $50,000 that will be covered. 15 states have indemnity funds. Most importantly, your surrounding states, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And for the fact, Minnesota is the 4th largest corn producing state, 3rd largest soybean producing state last year. The indemnity fund is faster payout and better protection. This cost is approximately $2 for every $1,000 of coverage. It's very cheap insurance. As of right now, when farmers call me, one thing that they do not want to do is haul into Minnesota. I have personally seen that farmers will haul out of state, particularly the farmers that are here to testify, knowing that they will be protected in other states. Minnesota is losing grain business, and they're also losing commerce in Minnesota because of that. I close with this. One particular morning, a farmer called me from southern Minnesota with the most emotional voice and said this: I have 5 children. I give money every week to church. I pay my bills. I lost $75,000 with the pipeline bankruptcy. Keep in mind, this is not including fuel, fertilizer, or the seed costs that I've already spent. This was my family's income for the year. He didn't know how to get through this, let alone to provide for his family. I used to say as a grain buyer that it needs to be a win-win. The end user needs to make money, the elevator, and also the farmer. I challenge you that we need a system to protect the farmer to get paid. Without the farmer, there's no elevator and no end users. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Our next testifier is Brian Herbst from Herbst Farms. If you can please identify yourself before the committee and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. For the record, my name is Brian Herbst. I farm in southeast Minnesota. We have a small family farm. It's 2,000 acres, but today everything is about that size. We also diversify that farm with a custom hog feeding operation. It helps level out the ups and downs in markets. I am one of the fallouts of the pipeline bankruptcy. Unfortunately, I made the top 20 list, which is not the kind of list you want to be on. My loss was $350,000. So I'm just here to say that we're a 4th generation farm. I have 2 young sons that have just come into the business over the last 5 years. And we will seriously feel that loss for not only months, but probably years to come. The things that we can expand with young people, and we heard today in testimony about the Young Farmer Program. Well, this isn't doing our farm much good at all, losing that kind of money, which had been profit to use to expand. Again, to respect the time, I want to talk about just two things. And let's be clear that the bonding system is a failed system. And I want to, just for all of you that don't understand, I'm going to put it in kind of layman's terms. We can, as a farmer, we can sell grain two different ways. We sell it as cash, and that is when I load up my truck and I drive up to the local elevator and I dump my product off there. They put it in their bin and they decide what to do with it, perhaps over a period of time. Okay, they'll probably sell it to the ethanol plant or send it to the river to go overseas. I don't know. That's called a cash contract, and that is covered by bonds. All right, but the bonds just aren't big enough to do much. But in actuality, I believe in Minnesota, 85% of all the sales, the contract sales by farmers, is by what they call voluntary extension of credit sales. And a voluntary extension of credit sale is not covered by bonds. So if I take my grain to an ethanol plant, that's a great place. Probably 5 hours later, that grain is made into some sort of a mash, and 5 days later, you'll find it on a railroad car going to the east or the west coast, okay? I have voluntarily given up my commodity to somebody to get it going down the chain, all right? And for that, and that was also the case with Pipeline also. They wanted my grain, so I can't go back to the elevator, pick it up and go home. I'm left just with nothing.
Brian, if you could please wrap up your testimony.
Second point is risk management. The things that we are going to be able to control and not control on the farm. I can't control the weather. I can't control world economics. I can't control so many things, but I can control how I operate my farm. I can hedge grain and protect myself there. I buy crop insurance, wind and hail insurance, all these things. This indemnity fund, I cannot stress enough how important that is. Let's make it similar to what the FDIC does with banks. They protect their customers by this kind of protection. This indemnity fund would do similar, and I pray to the good Lord that we will never use it. It's just there for the protection. So I hope that I have, with my testimony, given you a little glimpse of how important this is, and I challenge you to look at this with great need. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Brian, for your testimony. The next testifier is Jim Falk from Falk Seed Farm. If you can please identify yourself before the record and proceed.
Chairman Bang, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to testify today in support of establishing a grain indemnity fund. For the record, I'm Jim Falk. I'm the fourth generation to operate our family farm in Swift County. Farm with my wife Karen and my son Andrew. I'm also the president of Falk Seed Farm Inc., a seed processing facility that's been in business for 38 years. Our main business is selling certified seed, but we do process some food grade soybeans. So I've been a bonded grain buyer or licensed grain buyer for approximately 25 years. In 2020, MDA implemented the most recent changes to the grain buyers law, requiring more financial reporting of all grain buyers. This new mandated requirement to file financial audits and financial reviews was not well received by the industry, and it won't solve our problem, but it will cost the industry a lot of time and a lot of money to comply. I had the privilege of serving on MDA's Grain Advisory Group in 2022. That resulted in the MDA report issued to this committee on February 15th. I commend the staff of MDA and their professionalism in providing great detail regarding the grain buying facility failures over the last 8 years, and the fact that our current system is failing in its objective to protect Minnesota farmers. Minnesota ranks poorly as one of the worst states that provides farmer protections from grain buyer failures. MDA supports the establishment of a grain indemnity fund similar to what exists in 14 other states. Not everyone in the group was in agreement, but honestly, there were no other real solutions offered that did not look like what we already have, just with higher levels of bonding and more reporting. Let's be perfectly clear. These new requirements implemented in 2020 did not prevent the failure of Pipeline Foods in 2021 or Global Processing in 2022, which will result in millions of dollars of losses for our Minnesota farmers. The report was provided to both the House and Senate committee. I just want to highlight a couple items that are actual quotes or summations from the actual bullet points listed in the report. 7 failures in 8 years, over 14 million in claims against 1.02 million in bonds. Executive summary under conclusion regarding financial reporting, it states, quote, "It was evident through 3 meetings that the additional cost to license holders with no clear metrics or in-depth evaluation by the department is not serving the intended purpose. Bonds at the current," unquote, "bonds at the current rate aren't serving the purpose they were intended to. Additional regulations won't solve issues with protections for sellers, but may increase costs to license holders. Additional regulations were sold during last changes as an alternative to increasing protections. That hasn't worked to this point. So let's stop pretending we can put another Band-Aid on this failed system that's been broken for years and has caused so much pain to our Minnesota farmers, who are left to fend for themselves, shocked that their government has failed them. The evidence in the report is clear to me and should be to everyone that bonds will never be the answer, as they don't cover delayed price contracts, which are used extensively by farmers to manage their income from year to year. And as evidenced in the report, bonds only paid 6.2% of the total claims on the 5 failures that have been settled as of 2019. The idea that more reporting will somehow fix the problem isn't logical when in 2022, Global Processing filed bankruptcy within 2 months of getting their grain buyer's license. Certainly there is testimony today opposed to MDA's proposal to establish a grain indemnity fund. So you have to ask yourself why. The current system is broken. We need to fix it. Why is there opposition to a system that has been proven in other states and would actually protect our family farmers from losing their farms or life-changing setbacks, not to mention farmers who can't handle the stress of missing payments and having to go to mediation or worse? And farmers who don't want the protection can opt out of the program. The statute obviously exists with the intent to protect farmers when a grain buyer fails to pay on delivered grain. Our current system is failing to accomplish its intended purpose. Again, I thank you for allowing me to testify today.
Thank you, Jim, for your testimony. I believe those are all the testifiers I have in my notes. There are also 2 added letters from Minnesota Farmers Union and 6 grain buyers that is now posted on the agriculture website. Members, I know we gotten permission to go an extra 10 more minutes. I want to make sure we have a little bit of discussion on the bill, and so thank you for staying a little bit over time. Discussion to the bill as amended. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the discussion, and if we go a little bit over, I think that's fine because this is a very important topic, so thank you. Just a couple of questions. We talked about voluntary extension of credit. Maybe the department could stop back up, and I'm looking at an old copy of the bill here. On page 2, begin at line 18, a transaction that does not meet the provisions of voluntary extension of credit is a cash sale. Does that mean we're excluding something here that becomes a cash sale? Or again, go over one of the farmers testifying saying that a voluntary extension of credit was not covered by bonding. So I want to make sure that that's covered here in this indemnity bill.
Manager Nicholas.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Anderson. When a contract, a voluntary extension of credit contract, fails to have specific terms, including the signature that acknowledges that it's a contract, it defaults to a cash sale. That's language that exists in the law today, and this is similar to that.
Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just quickly then, we talked about cash sales and I'm asking about delayed price grain. When you actually lose, the farmer loses possession of that grain, it's no longer his, the elevator can sell it, it's gone. Coverage about the DP grain in this contract, in this bill, I should say.
Manager Nicholas.
Madam Chair and Representative Anderson, when a grower delivers grain, they can opt to put it on a contract currently or sell it as a cash sale. Cash sale requires that they're paid within 48 hours of the delivery of grain. Anything that extends that payment term is considered a voluntary extension of credit contract. Of course, they could also elect to put it on a storage contract or put it in storage and have access to that grain later on. Under this bill, voluntary extension of credit contracts would be covered to a certain extent. That is covered, I apologize. That is covered starting at line 3.26 and continues through 4.12.
Representative Anderson. Further discussion. Representative Purcell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Representative Cha for bringing this bill forward. Thank you to the group of folks who worked on the recommendation through the department, and especially thank you to the testifiers and condolences. I remember the day that the Pipeline Foods bankruptcy was announced, and it was completely devastating, and I'm not a grower. So it, affected our family farms, it affected people's employment. The ripple effects are many. So thank you for sharing your very difficult experiences and stories with us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further questions or discussion? Closing remarks, Representative Cha.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Chair Vang. I want to thank the co-authors and authors of this committee. I especially want to thank Representative Hansen for his leadership and Representative Frederick for his support in this bill. I want to thank to the Governor's Office, MDA, Farmers Union, Stu especially, and those testifiers that were here to testify in this bill. I also want to thank my colleagues across the aisle for working with me on this bill, and this is how bills should be done. I want to leave us with highlighting this bipartisan support for HF2718, that all those that are invested in this committee is committed to addressing issues within the agricultural community. And I want the testifiers in here to understand that. And I want everyone in this room and those that are watching to know that we as a committee on both sides of the aisle have Minnesota families' interests as a priority. So thank you.
All right. Members, earlier I made the motion to lay the bill over. That just means the committee has possession, but it is noted that we need to amend the motion to re-refer to judiciary. And so Representative Anderson, do you have a question?
No, I think that's okay, Madam Chair. Just wondering, will the bill come back here again, or will we not see it again in this committee?
I don't think it needs to come back, but we will see it again in part of the omnibus discussion.
Omnibus bill, you said?
Yeah,
Which omnibus bill?
the agriculture omnibus, I believe.
Well, then it will be back here again.
I don't think it needs to be formally motioned to be referred back to the agriculture committee. But I think we can, let me talk with staff behind it if we need to, and the chair of judiciary first, and then I can confirm with you later, Representative Anderson.
No, my point, Madam Chair, thank you, is that if it is back here part of the omnibus bill, there'd be another chance to offer amendments if we would so choose, correct?
That's correct. All right. Any further questions about the new motion to amend to re-refer to judiciary? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to re-refer House File 2718 as amended to the Judiciary Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The House File 2718 as amended is re-referred to Judiciary Committee.